Hey, welcome. I'm Cath Nolan, once high-performing perfectionist good girl turned goddess of balance, kicking even bigger goals. This is the podcast where we make balance doable for busy, overstretched working women, embracing your voice, honoring your feminine power, and protecting your energy. This allows you to truly step into greatness for the sake of all you hold dear. This is balance, and I am so glad you are here claiming balance for yourself. 7 years. 7 years is how long I held on to the idea of moving to the beach. 7 years of knowing that we wanted it, but feeling like good was enough. And then one day it wasn't. And it was more than just the beach, right? It was prioritizing my joy and connection. It was balance. Balance to me is when you can celebrate the push as well as the rest. And we were not doing that. And now we are. I don't want this episode to be a, wow, look at me, I'm winning. Actually, the idea of that really made me drag my feet about talking about it at all. Really simply, this episode is to say that there is this thing that was bugging me, a desire that had been bugging me, gnawing at me. I started wanting the change maybe 7 years ago, and early last year, I really leaned into taking it seriously. Like, this process started 7 years ago. In fact, if you're listening to this via podcast, if you're listening to this on YouTube, you'll be able to see this little key ring. So this key ring, it's actually a broken key ring, and I will post a photo of this key ring on socials, because this key ring was the start of it all. This key ring was... there's my favourite shop in Nelson Bay. It's called Homebody, actually. And my absolute favourite shop. My kids know it's my favourite shop in the world. And little bit by little bit, every time we visited Nelson Bay, I would just pick up one little trinket or a larger trinket. Like, we have some beautiful, beautiful things from there. But this was one of the first. This little key ring was one of the first. So if you can't see it right now, this keyring is a golden pineapple at the top. So it's a kind of chunky golden pineapple at the top with a gorgeous, gorgeous tassel. And this tassel is, it's the color of green. You know, when you're doing a coastal walk, the color of the leaves on a coastal walk, they're not bright green. They're kind of an olivey, kind of sagey, kind of darker than a sage. I guess, yeah, olive green. So that's the color of this tassel. So this tassel, this key ring was in my hand every day. And I have to tell you, I said to you it's a broken key ring. It's a broken key ring because they're not very durable. Like, it's stunning. I love it so much. It makes my heart sing. It means so much to me. This one tiny little talisman has meant so much to me every time I see it. And I tell you what, it's going to mean so much more to me for the rest of my life, knowing that having this thing in my hands manifested exactly what I was hoping for it to manifest. Oh man. This is actually going to be an episode that I'm really struggled to get through without tears in my eyes, because the change in my life has been really powerful, and I want that for you. I want that for you. So I'm sharing this because I want that for you too. So this key ring, as I said, it's pretty flimsy. Well, it's not flimsy, that's not the right word, but there's a little bit at the top that there's a little ring that connects this gorgeous pineapple to the keys, and that tiny little ring sometimes isn't very sturdy, and so the whole thing just kind of falls apart. So I have just been through, I think I'm on my 5th one now. I opened a new one this week to put the spare keys in for our new place, and it fell apart as we were putting keys onto it. So, it doesn't matter. What that means is, though, it's actually quite funny, because it means that there's now like 6 of these little pineapples, these little golden pineapples sitting in dishes in the house. And maybe I should just throw them out, but I like what they say to me. They say to me, hang in there. They tell me to hang in there, to keep focused on the dream, even if it looks like you're getting a sign that it's not quite going to come to fruition. Hang in there, because it really is. Anyway, I'm totally off on a tangent. Okay, what was I saying? So I started sort of articulating about 7 years ago, this is what I wanted. I wanted the beach. I wanted a beach house. Not just like a holiday house, but I wanted to live by the beach. So early last year, things were quite tumultuous, and I really started leaning into taking it seriously. And it wasn't even at that stage visualizing the beach. I truly wasn't. What I was visualizing was the lifestyle and what that meant. It meant wellness as first priority, absolute wellness first priority for myself and for the kids. I lent into trusting that it would actually work, like having faith in the universe that this would actually work, despite all the logic that said that sticking to what we were doing was safe, and we were kind of happy enough. There's plenty of people who would kill for what we had, to be in the position that I was in. So part of that process of change for me, with this new move, part of that process was ending my relationship with a beautiful, beautiful man. Honestly, he is one of the most beautiful humans I've ever met. So we ended that relationship. We prioritized health. We got hit with the old domestic violence from years ago. I hit it up again. So that brought turmoil and sped up my resolve, if I'm honest with myself. And partly because with the kids, often change, you can justify not changing because of the kids. You know, the kids like what they've got now. The thing was that the kids were actually so wanting to put a huge big boundary between them and that past that no longer was an issue. So here we are. I wake to the sound of the ocean. We hear the ocean from our pillows. Like, I have tiny tears of incredulous joy in the corners of my eyes every single night. I just cannot believe how blessed we are. And yet I do believe it, because I know I made this happen. I just can't quite believe that there's a part of me that knows that I made this happen, and there's a part of me still that can't quite believe that I made this happen. So our normal now, this is not a magical announcement. Like, this is not a magic, a highlights reel of, oh my goodness, how fabulous everything is, and covering up the warts and all. There are warts here. Well, I don't actually have warts, but you know what I'm saying. That there are, we still have to, we still have to take out the rubbish, and I still have to iron school uniforms, and I'm scrambling to do that because we have this tiny, tiny, tiny cottage kitchen, and there's no place for, like, the laundry is an outside laundry. There's a spare outside loo. It's just, oh my goodness. And the whole back wall is like a rainforest. The whole back wall of the garden is like a rainforest. It's like a cliff wall, sandstone cliff wall with ferns and lush greenery, and that means that there are tiny lizards. I was Googling, there's a whole lot of Googling going on in my world right now. I was Googling the other night how to get rid of lizards from inside your house. Then I was putting, apparently coffee is a good way. So they don't like the smell of coffee. So putting cups of black coffee around the house to try and ward off these tiny lizards that are absolutely adorable and kind of creepy because they're inside the house. Anyway, so as I say, this is not a highlights reel. This is still real life. We still sit in traffic for the CBD commute, and the CBD commute is longer by far than it was before. We have gone from this Strathfield mansion to this tiny beaches cottage, and it's divine. It is so divine, because our normal is centered around us choosing the best life for us, instead of the hamster wheel of what's expected or easy. So if I stop my ramble story now and put my coach hat on, this episode, it's about trusting yourself enough to let go of what's good to make room for what is extraordinary, because balance isn't about clinging to comfort. It's about knowing when to expand. And quite frankly, there's not an easy ride or a perfect ride at any level, whether you're settling for good or whether you're reaching for extraordinary. There's always going to be some tough parts, right? So let me walk you through how this unfolded. The old house, grand, spacious, stunning, beautiful. Like we literally had Hannah's wedding in our backyard. It was magnificent. The pool, the double garage, all those bedrooms, my office, all of those things. The kids each had their own room. There was so much space. Everything that we thought we needed. The truth, it never felt like ours. I never felt secure, like we were living in someone else's life. It was a good life. It was a really good life, but it didn't welcome my dreams or my kids' dreams. So what was the shift? The beaches have been a calling for years. When my kids are in the ocean or by the ocean, their mental health has always improved. And after 2024, that was essential. So was there a moment? No. There was no one moment. There was no one moment. There was no disaster, no rock bottom, just this quiet realization that good wasn't the same as right. So what was the leap? We downsized. We downsized by one core relationship, and that will always have sadness for me. One core relationship and a whole lot of stuff. I have no sadness about stuff. And from that very first night in this tiny beach cottage with the beautiful neighbours, it already feels like we were meant to be here all along from that very first night. I've never had that at a house before, and I'll be 50 in 6 months. Our dinner the first night, we were like literally, when I say the first night, we were literally unpacking boxes. Like we'd say goodbye to the removalist, and then it was, okay, what can we throw together out of the esky? Okay, we've got some sausages. Excuse me, we've got some sausages, got some salad, throw the sausages in the pan, got the sausages cooked up, threw them into a Tupperware dish, and we each had a Tupperware dish with salad and sausages on the sand. And the kids went for a swim. It was 8 o'clock at night. They were in the ocean watching the sunset, and they were beaming, because it's different. It's not just a new house. It's such a change. They so wanted to separate themselves from being visible or available to the person who haunted them, and now they are. This new home signifies boundaries and wellness and celebrating the work as well as the play. It's extraordinary. You know that sign that people have that says, normally I would just ignore a thing that pops up, but there's a message that's popped up on my phone on my computer saying, love you, mummy. I've turned off my notifications on my phone, but somehow this new laptop, the phone notifications pop up here from the kids. How sweet. Okay, so where was I? That sign on the back of your car that says kids on board. That has such a different meaning for me in the last year. I don't know if it's partly to do with the age of the kids or our shared experiences. They're a bit older, so they're kind of a bit more aware of what they're experiencing. They're able to process more accurately, more fully, more maturely. And so, yeah, that sign on the back of my car that says kids on board, it gives me chills every time I see it, because for me, it doesn't just mean that kids are in the car. It actually means my kids are on board with what I'm doing just as much as I'm on board with what they're doing and what's important to them. And that is so special. So I know that the beach, pushing back the tears again, I know that the beach isn't the thing for everyone, but for us, it's perfection. It's far from perfect. Case in point, tiny lizards. It's far from perfect, but for us, it is perfection. So why is it so hard? Why is it so hard to trust the leap? And what is the framework for making this kind of a change if you want to? I don't mean change to the beach, I mean any kind of change. So if you know that things aren't quite right for you, what's the framework that you use to trust the leap? Well, let's start with why it's so hard. It's hard because good feels safe. there is a myth that big changes only happen when things are bad, and it is not true. It's not true. It's like the same myth, or really similar, that burnout only happens when you are doing something that you don't like. It's not true. Burnout can happen when you're doing something that you love passionately and you're putting so much of yourself into it, you don't even notice that you're putting too much into it. So definitely this idea that big changes only happen when things are bad, it's so not true. However, the hardest decisions are the ones where nothing is wrong. Nothing is wrong, but something is calling you forward. Yeah, the research behind it. So the studies on psychological safety show that people are far more likely to stay in situations that are fine than take a risk on something better. But if something is calling you forward, you have to listen. Because you know the science of regret, the research shows that we regret missed opportunities for growth way more than we regret risks that didn't work out. So 3 signs that you're holding on to good instead of moving toward great. 3 signs, ready? Listen up. The first one is that you feel restless, but you can't pinpoint why. If you feel restless, but you can't pinpoint why, that is your intuition. Girl, you don't need a reason to want to move. Wanting is enough. Wanting more, wanting is enough. When I say move, I don't mean like moving to the beaches, hi neighbour. I don't mean that. I mean make a change in your life. So if you feel restless, but you can't pinpoint why, the wanting, please know that the wanting is enough. That's your intuition. Okay, second sign. The version of you who made the original decision is not who you are today. Good Lord, am I going to keep you up? I don't think I can get through 30 seconds of this one without getting choked up. The version of who made the original decision is not the person who you are today. You're allowed to change. You are allowed to outgrow things that once felt perfect, my friend. And number 3, number 3 for me is the corker. You keep waiting for a sign, but deep down you already know. If you are waiting for permission, this is it. Nothing is wasted when you trust yourself. If you keep waiting for a sign, girl, you already know. You already know. You're just looking for permission. Let this be it. Okay, so for us, these small but important loose ends you need to know about. I need to acknowledge the move was huge. It was life-changing. It was exactly what we needed. Exactly what we needed. But guess what's still not settled? Finding a new hairdresser. Like, really, this is genuinely a real problem for me. We've got the new doctors sorted. We have school well and truly so blissfully, sublimely sorted. That was sort of before we got here. Oh my God, so beautifully. Okay, so that was a knock at the door. Sorry about that. Had to duck out. Talking about, it's not perfect. So the NBN guys were here earlier today, setting up our connectivity, which is very, very exciting. But they left the gate open. So Bronte got out and went exploring and met some neighbours, and she had a bath this morning. And I don't have a groomer for the dog yet either. So the bath actually means bathing her in the bath. But then how do you rinse a dog in the bath without just putting more dirty water onto the dog? Well, now, what we do now is I now bath Bronte in my cosy, because of course we have 50 million pairs of togs now because we live by the beach. So bath Bronte in the bath, and then it's like there's an all hands on deck deal here. So bathing Bronte in the bath, I'm sitting beside the bath, bathing Bronte, and she's got such curly hair too, so getting the suds in anyway. And then it's okay, great, quick, out of the bath, over to the shower. So I'm standing in the shower in my togs with the dog, got the dog under the shower, trying to get all the suds out of the dog. And then, okay, so once she's clean, then it's, okay, kids, it's time. And the kids come in with the towels and they just cover her with towels and try and dry her off as much as possible. And we manage that because if she goes outside, the first thing that a clean wet dog wants to do is roll in the dirt. She'll find some dirt. We don't have a lot of dirt, but she'll find some. Okay, so that little sideline adventure just there was because one of my new neighbours was knocking on my door to say, "Is this your dog?" Yes, this is my dog. Oh, okay. So as I say, the move was huge. It was life-changing. Yes, exactly what we needed. But there's always going to be loose ends. So finding a new hairdresser is not yet done. Finding a dog groomer, as you've heard, is not yet done. Finding a new rhythm is not yet done because we're still in the throes of this chaos of, every box is unpacked. Every box has been unpacked since the first 2 weeks. But, finding where different things go, finding where the dog tends to go when she's left to her own devices and who she wants to go and visit. And I think the bigger thing is identity. So identity is one of the things that can keep us from making a change. You identify with the job that you're in currently, and therefore it's hard to say goodbye to that because it's like saying goodbye to a part of you, and it's a part of you that you trusted. So welcoming a new version of you can be scary. That's part of the change, yeah? So working out who am I here, that feeling, it's real. Even when you love the change, that who am I here feeling is very real. So the lesson in this story for you is that from extraordinary new beginnings, even extraordinary new beginnings have loose ends. Wonderful established goodness, even wonderful established goodnesses, they have loose ends too. There's loose ends everywhere. But you don't have to have everything perfect before you take the leap. In fact, if you are waiting for everything to be tied up and perfect before you take the leap, it's not going to happen. You will never take the leap because it's never going to be perfect. You just have to trust that you'll figure it out as you go. And that is such a strong theme in my life. Trust has played, it's almost it's the thing that I couldn't have done balance without. I could not have done balance without trust, because without trust you rely on logic. And logic says, work harder. Logic says that you should rely on good enough. So let's bring this back to you, my friend. What does all of this mean for you? Your life is not a checklist of good enough. If something is calling you, my friend, it's for a reason. Balance isn't just about maintaining, it's about expanding. So I'd like you to ask yourself, what is one thing in your life right now that's good but no longer right? What's one thing in your life that's good but no longer right? And if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you say yes to? My friend, if this episode has resonated for you, let's talk. Let's talk. Whether you feel that there is a change coming for you in your career or your leadership journey, or in your balance, in your work-life balance, in your balance. If you feel that there's a change coming for you, reach out. My group coaching program is starting now. We have a balance program kicking off sometime very soon, very, very soon. Super exciting. Leadership expansion happening as well. So if you are feeling that the change that's coming for you is a career shift or a leadership expansion, or just feeling more balanced, more aligned in your life, reach out. Or book me for a speaking engagement, because balance isn't just about maintaining what you have. It's about trusting when it's time for more. So reach out today. Let's talk. I might put some links in the show notes for some extra resources. Fabulous to have you on the journey. Lean into the questions. I cannot wait to see you next time. And hopefully the stories next time are more about, ocean waves from my pillow, and less about new critters that I've had to learn to get to know. I'm referring to the lizards, not the neighbours. You got that right? See you next time. You know, I believe that women do help other women. I hope that this episode has empowered you to question your willingness to go last. I hope that you will embrace balance. And I'm also hoping that you will help me to help other women to do the same. So how can you help? Show your support for the work. Subscribe and review the podcast here where you're listening. Follow the Goddess of Balance on Instagram to catch some cheeky behind the scenes and extras. Connect with me on LinkedIn and share the posts with your network. That would be sensational. If you have enjoyed this program, this episode, you will no doubt love my group coaching program. You got to find all the links to these in the little written blurb for this episode. Thank you, my friend, for normalizing balance with me. We are raising performance and reputations, wellness and equality. Together, we're creating positive change for working women, starting with you. Sincerely, I thank you for being part of the movement.